Hey, everybody, welcome to the Approved Perspective podcast powered by Approved Social. Well, Grant, super excited to have you here on the Approved Perspective podcast. This is the place where we're trying to bring in industry leaders like yourself, CEOs of agencies, people who have experience who can share with our community of folks who are actively using Approved Social and want to be able to better streamline their processes, learn from folks who are like you, running businesses, doing the day-to-day work that sometimes it sucks. Sometimes we want to share with people about how hard it is, and that's a great way to communicate and share. Sometimes it's an amazing story of 3 years of incredible growth, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. I know you have, let me give you a little quick update, everybody, on Grant. Or a little bio. Grant has been in marketing for about 8 years now, and is the CEO of Digital Positions LLC. And it's a large business with a good, solid team. They've done huge search campaigns. I think that's where y'all focus, right, Grant? Kind of in the search world.
Yeah, we're both in the PPC and SEO world. Yep.
PPC. Okay, cool. And they've won industry awards. They've done all sorts of things that are really cool. But one of the cool parts about this, and one of the reasons I invited Grant to join us on the podcast, is he has gone from entry's position to the CEO of Digital Positions in a matter of 3 years. And I think there's some really cool information that we're going to get out of Grant. So I'm super excited to have you, Grant. Thanks for coming on board.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the time and excited to talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to add for people who might be listening to just have some greater context on that? I tried to do my best, but you know the story better.
Yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, I've been in digital marketing for about 8 years. I started originally as just a SEO account lead, not knowing anything about SEO when I first started. I feel like that's how most people end up getting into the industry. Nobody really has any idea about it and just stumbles into it. They just happen to have good people skills, and then they just learn about SEO down the road. But before coming into Digital Position, I was working for an automotive digital marketing agency beforehand, and felt like I was providing an incredible amount of value to the company, and I was doing so much on a month to basis, year to basis. I was with them for about 3.5 years, and overall just felt like I wasn't getting the growth that I felt like I deserved, that I was able to provide for them over those years. And ultimately, it was kind of a churn and burn agency. There was new faces showing up on a weekly basis, people leaving on a weekly basis. There was just a lot to it, but it was an incredible culture. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a great way to learn, and I wouldn't change it for the world. The time management skills I was able to get out of it is honestly invaluable at this point. And certainly was able to get me jump started within Digital Position more than I ever could have hoped for. And just in terms of the people I was able to meet there was pretty impactful, because fortunately enough, somebody that I met at my previous job was the guy that got me the job into Digital Position later on. So funny enough, kind of quick side story, he left the company and he gave me all of his problem accounts when he left. And then he contacted me about a year later. He's like, "Hey, how you doing over there?" I was like, it's not great, but
not great,
I was holding it. I was hanging on there, and he's just like, "Yeah," he's like, "You wanna try working with us?" And funny enough, this was right as COVID was happening, and I turned them down. And I said, "I don't know if I want to make the transition yet." I was going through this potential promotional stage within my previous company, and I was like, I feel pretty good about it. I have this big presentation that I'm ready to present, et cetera, et cetera. It didn't end up working out. And then I came back several months later, but it's something that the previous CEO gives me a lot of crap for. He's like, "You originally didn't want to work here." And I was like, well, at the same time, COVID happened, things were weird, but it ended up working out. But anyways, It was something where I sent in my resume. I had an interview the next day, and I got the job offer the day immediately following. So it was a 3-day process of getting transitioned out into Digital Position.
Quick. Yeah. It seems like, when those things happen and they align correctly, it's just the perfect stepping stone into that next thing. And what I found, and tell me if this is similar to you, but what I found is that previous thing is just a stepping stone for the next thing. Like, if you use it correctly, and if you take that opportunity wisely, you're going to get so much out of it. And I talk to people all the time who go, most of them don't have a huge marketing background. Most of them started in something else And that's transitioned over into marketing. When I'm talking to people who are young and they're getting started and they go, I don't have any experience at all. Should I go to should I go get a degree in marketing? No, don't do that. Like, get online. It's all available to you. You can learn everything and more quickly and for less money online today. But they go, well, I don't have any experience. Well, what did you do before this? Well, I mowed lawns. Okay, well, you know how that business works. Why don't you start with seeing if you can market a business like that, right? So there's a lot of ways that we can transition. I'm assuming naturally going from that automobile company and industry where you were focusing on into yours, you've been able to take probably a lot of that information and immediately apply some principles. Is that correct?
Without a doubt. Yeah. And to your point, it's those soft skills that you develop throughout that entire period of time that I think is very undervalued, that a lot of people take for granted during those periods of time where you might have a crappy job, but there's so many additional things you're able to take and apply everywhere else, whether or not it's the actual knowledge that you gain from that exact position.
Right.
Because for our company specifically, I think about 50-60% of the people we have within our team did not have a marketing background, and we've all trained them within the job, but they have incredible soft skills and are just fantastic people to work with, have that grit, have that drive. And that's stuff that you can't teach. And that's where I think we as a company are able to do so incredibly well, is we're not hiring people who just have the most SEO or PPC knowledge out there. It's the people that are able to surpass that because they have a passion for just life and just work in general, that are able to find it fun, able to find it entertaining, where that's a really hard person to be able to beat when you're feeling like you're in the grind all the time and you don't have a passion for it. You're just doing it to pay the bills kind of thing.
Right.
But
and naturally, I think that sort of begs the question of, like, as a CEO, one of the big hurdles that I've experienced is hiring. It's a difficult, painful process sometimes. And of course, I'm sure you've heard, hire slow, fire fast, right? And it's one of those terms where we go, well, that doesn't seem super fair, but really it's fair for you as a business, and it's fair for them because it's not helping anybody to put them in the bad position. Now, if you can find someone, you can hire someone who is trainable, wants to learn, has some soft skills that are strong, is open to growth and serving the clients that you serve. Boom. Then you've got sort of that thing unlocked. You don't need the best person in the industry. You want somebody trainable. Like when you started hiring, did you come across any major issues? Were you sort of faced with any hurdles there? Because that's a big change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And specifically within this past year, we have gone through a couple of unfortunate situations where there's just some people that haven't worked out, where it's like we went through the interview process and we're like, wow, this person like checks off all the boxes, and then just something kind of unfolds over time. And I don't think it's particularly anybody's fault, but to your point, it's like the hire slow, fire faster type of mentality. It's like, it's for the betterment of everybody at the end of the day. Because if you start to slowly grow resentment either within the company or you're having some sort of issues outside of life, it's like, ultimately, I want to be able to support you in any way. And whether that's being with us or not being with us, it's like,
exactly.
It's only beneficial if you're coming in happy, you're going to do the best work that you can. If you're coming in unhappy, no one is happy. So
nobody's happy. Yeah.
No, it doesn't work out if it's trying to jam a square peg into a round hole type of thing. It's just no one's benefiting from it, and there's no reason to waste any time with it. And it's a really tough thing, especially when, and that's one of the biggest things that I've been learning just as a CEO, is you just really, one, have to follow your gut almost all of the time, and two, it's really hard to I guess disassociate from your heart at some point too, just because you really want to do what is right by that person. And sometimes it is the hardest thing to do at the same time. And being able to trust in terms of everyone is going to be okay. The fortunate thing about marketing is nobody's lives are at risk, and we're not doing open heart surgery, and we can do everything we can to help find them a next position at the same time, which we always do. We take great care of them, and it's never anything personal, and we're just out here to do the best we possibly can so that everybody can be happy. Everyone has a great experience when they work here. And if that doesn't happen to be the case, I don't want to force you to be here, because that's not great for anybody else's longevity, nor is it good for ours.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes it can be the catalyst for just some really great things for them. I mean, for me, my story,
Mhm.
right? I was doing clients on the side because I had the ability to, and the company that I worked for encouraged it. Um, but at some point, they decided that that wasn't a policy that they wanted to keep anymore, so they let me go. They said, "Hey, you can't be doing too many, I guess, campaigns like this." So I was like, you know what? That's unfortunate. I didn't love it, but it forced me into my agency and it forced me into it full time, where I was able to then go, okay, I, yeah, sure, I did a good job for them, and yes, I'm doing a good job for my clients. But now I'm doing an even better job because I'm working 9 to 5 instead of 6 to 10 or whatever, whatever I'm working on for those other side clients. And so it can force people, and I think it can be a catalyst for such great stuff internally for our business when we've experienced someone where maybe we've kept them a little too long, and we can start to see the signs. You start to see clients maybe a little frustrated. You might start to get some of these tips and tricks, and or not tips and tricks, but signs of sort of decay and some issues that you're seeing around your business. And I think if I were to give advice, and I'd love to hear your viewpoint on this too, but if I were to give advice to an agency owner who's starting, if you do feel that, like you said, the intuition part, look at those signs, feel that intuition, and go, you know what? If I keep this person another few months, maybe they continue to lose me more clients. They might cost me more than they're worth
Mhm.
at this point. And unfortunately, you gotta make a decision, and the buck stops with us at the end of the day. Now you have a team of 33, 34 people. Is it
Yep.
more than that? It's on the
Yeah, we're
website.
at 31, 32, somewhere
31,
in
32.
that. I can't
Okay,
remember off the
so
top of my head, but yeah.
I would say you're in a larger bracket of marketing agencies, than a lot of the people who are just getting started, or they've been doing it for a few years, whatever. They're sort of the boutique agency. Y'all are larger. What is that like client list look for you? What at 33 people? Uh, how many clients are you guys able to service?
Yeah, so currently we have about 90 clients, I believe. I think we're, 91, 92 in that range. In terms of how we have grown, for a long time, it was just whatever client we could take in that we feel passionate about the growth for and also are just like decent human beings. We've certainly come across, everyone will come across some of those tough to work with clients. And sometimes we've had to fire clients in the past because ultimately it's just become too micromanagey. But we're in any industry from health and wellness all the way to defeasance, all the way to handbags, jewelry, anything of the like. But we're about 80% e-commerce based, Shopify focused. But realistically, if it's paid media buying, we are pretty damn good at it and feel pretty confident in being able to handle everything that we can. But over the next couple of years, the focus is to try and niche down a little bit because we just
Mm,
want to be able to continue to be leading industry experts in a specific field, not just paid media buying in general, because that's
mm.
obviously very broad. But the more we're able to niche down, the more professional, the more of the experts we can be, I guess, for
Yeah,
lack of a better way
subject
of
matter
putting it.
expert. Yeah,
Yeah.
subject matter experts. Absolutely.
Yep.
No, that's totally true. Now, with this, I think lot of questions come into mind. How do you even evaluate where you're going to go right now?
Mhm.
As a business, you can evaluate it based on your current book, or you can evaluate it based on margins of certain verticals and niches that you want to go after. How would you look at that? So for 2024, as you look into niching down a little bit more, what are you looking for?
A lot of it takes into account what does our team look like right now? Like what is a common denominator or a common goal that everybody here would want to have, or something that could be motivating for everybody here? And something that I guess probably by the time that this podcast will release, we'll already be talking about it internally within the team. Something we're going to go over the next couple of weeks is
Cool.
we're really going to break down to the health and wellness space for this
Nice.
business. We
Yeah.
want to be able to take this to the next level of not only are we working with clients that want to breed positivity in the world through health and wellness and being able to have an active and healthy lifestyle, but we're also living and breathing that within the company as well every
Cool.
single day. Whether that's everybody gets a standing desk, everybody gets a Whoop watch. We're all trying to track our sleep, health, and wellness. Like trying to just continue to
Cool.
just generate more active and healthy lifestyles. I guess that's really the only way to put it. just in everything that we do. And the one really nice thing about, as I'm thinking more about the niching down into the business and finding something that everybody can collectively come together for, is one, going into the new year. That's essentially everybody's goal, is to be a little bit healthier this year, be a little bit more active, walk a little bit more, do something like that. And that one beautifully leans into that. But two, when we look at all of our processes and everything that we do internally, we're able to set a lot more consistency in everything that we get to put out there in terms of how we're marketing ourselves. And if we onboard an account or we start to take on an account, we're putting ourselves in the driver's seat of, we know mostly what to expect at every step of the entire puzzle of working with this account, because we have worked within this industry for however many years that we're going to do it for. We can set this consistency of an onboarding process for apparel, for like running shoes, jump ropes, whatever it may be, down the line. So we're not only establishing ourselves as the professionals in every way, shape, and form in that industry, we're also establishing far more consistency internally within the business. So we don't have as much fluctuations of, we get a completely new industry client that we know nothing about and we have to figure a lot out. And it provides a lot more stability and consistency for everybody.
1,000%. I mean, it's amazing how repeatable a lot of the things that we do on a daily basis can be, and we can create those into processes if we're, as CEOs, CMOs, C-level execs, if you're thinking managers, if you're thinking about, how do I give my team, better service myself? How am I serving my team? Well, by serving your team, you're giving them the tools and the strategies that they need to succeed. And you can do that if you take the time to build out those processes. If not, a lot of times you're going to be duplicating those things every single time. You're going to write a new email for the introduction, or, a new onboarding document or something like that. Right. And those are just super simple tactics that, someone listening can implement very quickly. And there's going to be a lot of things right off the bat. I remember when I first revisited our agency, and we had gone, Grant, from nothing to a pretty big team, but we weren't operating very well. That's not my specialty. Okay. Is getting organized. It's not always that. But what I realized is, in order for us to continue to grow, we would need to implement those processes, because I am doing other things. I have Approved Social as our move, and I needed to be able to move away from the agency and let it continue to do its thing well. And there was no way to do that unless I actually built those processes. And so we use Trello, we use other tools and things personally for our business. What do you guys use on your side to build out those processes?
Yeah, absolutely. So Monday.com is the task management platform that we use. And I think just having some form of structure in that is incredibly helpful. A lot of our processes, we've also switched into Google Drive, and just having at least documentation process of, like, if there is some way to do something a consistent way, or it's very repeatable, let's get it down in a video. Let's get it down on paper. Let's do everything we can to continue to build this so there's consistency and everybody is on the same page. And that if I know nothing about how to onboard a client, I can still go in and read this task, and I could do it from start to finish without, hopefully, as few questions as possible.
Yeah, and very little digital marketing experience, really. Like, for example, Pixels. That's a great one to, build out a process for. Well, how do you install the Pixel? What events are we using? How do we go about utilizing that specific piece? And there's just, like you said, onboarding and so many other things that are super, super helpful. And then revisiting those with your team. That was one thing that I waited too long to do. We implemented these new processes, and I got their initial feedback, made some adjustments, and then probably every quarter, or maybe every, once a year, something like that, you need to be looking at those processes, and maybe even more often, and looking at those processes and really updating them to make sure that you are on the same page. So, okay, cool. So let's talk a little bit about maybe one of your clients. I'd love to hear maybe a big success story that you guys have had, something that you can sort of elaborate on. What is goes into the strategy that you're building out? Everybody has their own sort of way of doing that. Do you build a funnel first and map that out? Do you build out a strategy? Like, sort of, how does that go with your team? And I think this is important because whether you're talking to or you're listening right now and potentially want to hire Grant and his team because of their extensive experience and a lot of awards and recognition, then definitely take a look at it and talk to Grant about that. Or you might be an agency owner as well, listening in, and you go, hey, how do I learn from this? That's what I'd love to sort of set up.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that we have done a great job at in terms of some of those larger accounts that have multiple different channels to be able to touch on is the MER model, or media efficiency ratio model, which takes into account all the spend that you were doing across all different channels and then funneling it to what is your top line revenue? What are you getting from all of these channels together? So we do an entire spreadsheet in Google Sheets of what are you spending in Amazon? What are you making in, or what are you spending in Amazon? What are you spending in Facebook, TikTok, Google, Bing, etc. Pulling that all together, seeing how that's trending, and then comparing that at the end of the day to how much are you making? And then from that point forward, we're able to determine if we start to increase our spend for social, how does that impact our top line revenue? Are we increasing? Are we decreasing? Where are we at in the funnel, and how are we maximizing our dollars to go to each of those different types of channels or each of those platforms to understand at what point are we being best spent with our dollars within the marketing funnel to be able to capitalize on that in any way, shape, or form? Are we adding more dollars into our retargeting or our remarketing efforts within Facebook, and that's helping us scale at the bottom line? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Are we investing more into TikTok to be able to get just more brand awareness, whatever it may be? But there's so many different just variables that go into play of identifying not even where the money is coming from, but just understanding when we push and pull and all of these different levers that we have the ability to pull from, how is that impacting top line? And then what can we do about that? Because there's so much you can learn in such a quick period of time by just adjusting spend, testing things out, and just not necessarily blowing things up, but it's like we have to be able to take this and take a couple of risks to identify how are we going to be the most effective for the entire year moving forward. And I think that's a large majority of where we don't see a lot of other agencies taking a look into it, is they're very siloed into their one section and not taking a look at the whole picture. Because it's very easy to get lost in the weeds of everything when you're looking at one channel individually when everything plays a part together. It just makes the conversation that much easier to be able to drive that sort of profit at the end of the day when you know exactly where everything is coming from and how it ends up impacting the top line.
Just to comment on this, because this is like a huge point, I think, for everyone in marketing. We have a tendency to get siloed into our little areas and do our little areas. I was the paid social guy. That's what I did, right? There's others who do search or SEO or whatever that might be, right? What we need to remember is, before you even get into touching marketing campaigns, do an audit or do an evaluation like what you're talking about. Because if you can understand just the baseline of their numbers, where are they trending, what's channel is performing, what are the basic performance metrics, look at those and understand what they were doing in the past, maybe for past quarter, past year, or even just currently. But if you don't set that baseline and you don't have those numbers transparently given to you by the client, you need to be trying to get them. You need to be asking for them. You need to be proving, like what you said, hey, in order for us to be able to prove to you that we're doing a good job, this is the information that we need. And we're the experts to help you. Even if the only thing you're hiring us to do is one piece of the pie, we need to know the holistic approach of what's happening, because we want to prove to you that we're worth it. And we want to make sure there's no other marketing initiatives that are launching around the same time. There's a lot of things that go into that specifically, but it's something that a lot of folks don't get enough information right off the bat. I know I didn't for the first few clients. And then it was hard to know whether I did a really great job or not. And the client didn't even know. And maybe tracking wasn't set up as good as I do now, and all these other things that, Or maybe tracking was broken for some reason. The client said it was set up right and it was broken, and then you're a month or two in and you're totally up a creek. So what, like, do you run into obstacles? I have with clients where they don't want to share some of those things with you for whatever reason. I don't even know why, but do you do that, and how do you handle that objection?
Yeah, great question. All the time.
Yeah.
And realistically, we have to just do the best that we can. It's like if we're given certain restrictions within everything that we do, then we are just going to work at the best of our ability within the confines of those restrictions. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes, yeah, to your point, have no idea why people just don't want to give us Amazon access or Facebook access or something like that. And ultimately, that's their choice and that's perfectly fine. But also they have to understand that we're going to do the best that we can from our channel. And that might not ultimately be the best for the business because we don't have the rest of the information. And it's not to say that we don't care. We'll always try and push and provide that context as much as humanly possible. It's like, if we're able to get this information, we feel very confident we would be able to take this from a B to an A minus or an A at that point. And the more information we have, the more we're able to excel at what we do best, because we are able to understand the entire context of the situation to be able to move it forward. Because one of the big things that for clients that we just have SEO for, there's so many instances where they don't want to give us maybe PPC access, but they're heavily scaling their amount of spend within their PPC efforts, either in specifically branded, where that just heavily screws over SEO, because if somebody's going to search for a brand, naturally that branded ad is going to show up far beyond always above the SEO organic listings. And that's just going to rip away a ton of traffic. And then they point the finger at us and they're like, what the heck's going on with SEO? Like, why is this happening? And we're just like, well, let's take a look. And they're just like, sorry, we're not going to give you that information. But it's very easy for us to be able to just go in and be like, okay, every time I search for your brand, there are ads showing up here. This was not here last year,
right?
Et cetera, et
so
cetera.
Why would I click the organic thing that we're working on when I could just click the top result? Yeah,
exactly.
Extremely customized and tailored to what I'm looking for. Okay, yeah, that makes total sense, and it is hard. I do have clients, or I've had clients that have said that, and have siloed us off into certain areas. I've had clients that have been super open and totally get that we want to be on the same page, and we're not coming for their other agencies or their internal teams work. Like, we're just here to do our work, do it well, because ultimately you're going to pay us for a very long time. And on your website you have listed that I think you keep your clients for 3.5-ish years, something like that.
Yep.
On average, which is an incredible lifetime value of a client. I mean, you're talking about retention and efforts into keeping that client. And I think sort of naturally kind of begs the question of, like, what do you do to potentially invest in that retention? That's another area that, as an agency owner, when I got started, I had no clue about. I mean, thinking about the cost associated with acquiring a new customer versus the cost associated with retaining a current customer is dramatically different. And I want to say it's like 80% more to go out and find a new client than it is to retain that client. And so investing some money, some resources, some time into keeping that client above and beyond maybe even the proposal or the scope of work can really, really be a huge key component. Are there specific things that you would say, hey, we do this very differently than every other agency, that might be something that you like to do for clients to help with retention?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is, the one thing I do want to mention that I'm always really proud of with the 3.5 years of average retention for a client, is we do month-to-month contracts too. So we are constantly out there proving ourselves every single month that we are deserving of your business. And that's something that I don't personally believe in terms of locking people into these incredibly long-term contracts. The only situation where that might be different is if it is with a massive, massive company where it's like, I need to be able to support the stability of our company if that happens to be a falling out. But outside of that, relationships, that's the biggest thing. One of our biggest mottos is, it's really hard to fire a friend. And we always, and not to say that we want to take advantage of something like that, but it's like, The reason I am so passionate about the culture within this company is not only because, to your point, the amount of investment it does to keep somebody or keep a client. It's like hiring the right people is that type of investment at the
Same
same
with
time.
employees. Yeah,
Having
it is.
exactly is having those type of people, again, that genuinely care about other people. They're just passionate about the work that they do in general, which then bleeds into the relationships that they're building with the clients at the end of the day. And that also builds into that entire niching down of the business too, is if we're working with health and wellness types of brands all the time, and that's the entire makeup of the digital position team, they're naturally going to get along far more with the products that they sell, the service that they provide, and or the people that are working on the other side, on the client side, for us to be able to connect with them, have a great relationship, be able to lean on that trust when things get a little wishy-washy, which they inevitably always do, whether we have a massive pandemic that affects the entire country, or we go into an election year where things might be a little bit different going into 2024 based on the amount of distraction that that'll provide. But the biggest thing is developing those relationships with clients, having that trust be established over time, so that there isn't finger pointing. It is always just a nice natural discussion of what can we do next? Let's build upon this together. Let's both be part of this conversation, as opposed to what are you guys doing wrong? How can you fix this? Because as soon as that starts to happen, scars establish over time within the relationship that are really hard to be able to build back.
Yeah. And you start to feel those, on client meetings and other things where, whether they were frustrated with the timeline, maybe it got extended, or, whatever other thing could happen. You start to feel that kind of abrasion, and that's why, especially when we're in marketing, we're trying to constantly compete with the shiny new toys, the shiny new agency, the shiny new AI tool that's coming out, and everyone is going to be looking to those things. So if you're not focused on the retention part, if you're not focused on that relationship part, the shiny new thing is going to get them, and they might come back. That happened to us quite a bit. You might lose a client, they might come back, but you lost that revenue for those months, and because they got distracted by the shiny new thing. Very cool. And I pulled up here, let me see if I can find it. So acquiring a new customer can cost 5 times more than retaining an existing customer. So
Wow.
Increasing customer retention by 5% can increase profits from 25 to 95%, and yet the success rate of selling to a customer you already have is 60 to 70%, while the success rate of selling to a new customer is just 5 to 20%. So I was off on my stats, but there you go. There's some stats there that show you that. And when we're talking about maybe even selling to a current customer, we can talk about expanding into the other verticals that they have, marketing channels that they have, expanding from just SEO to search as well, whatever that might look like. Most of us as agencies aren't thinking about the money that's on the table from the clients we currently have. We're thinking about money that's on the table from these new clients. Is that something that you guys have prioritized? Have y'all looked at how do we generate more revenue from the 90 something clients we already have? Because just a few $1,000 a month per is a massive increase for your agency. What does that look like for you guys? How do you approach that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it really just depends upon what type of services they currently have and what their other partners or other channels are looking like at that point in time. Because sometimes it's best to just start to get our foot in the door with PPC or SEO right off the bat. And it's fortunately a very natural progression of over time, as we prove ourselves, of showing that we are capable of doing this work at the level that they expect, that we can then take a look into how is your Google ads doing? How is your TikTok ads doing? How's your Amazon looking? And we can do a back end audit and just take a look for our own sanity and just take a look of, are things going well? Is this something we even need to rock the boat for? Or is this something that we passionately feel like we can do without a doubt better than what the current agency is doing, and try to pitch them on it? And it always comes from, and there's been multiple times too, where we go and we take a look at the other channels that they're doing. And we're like, holy crap, like they've got a pretty damn good team working on their Google ads. It's like, that's great. Like I love that. Ultimately, I want what's best for them at the end of the day. And if they're doing fantastic on that side, I want nothing more than for them to continue to succeed there. And we'll just continue to do what we can do best on our end and continue how things are at. But a majority of the time we do come across and we're like, what is this creative that's being made here? Like, what is this ad? Like, this makes zero sense. And it's like, then it just kind of builds this conversation over time. And it's not something where we necessarily want to just like go into attack mode right off the bat, but it's like, it's just kind of this building conversation of like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Or what do you think about that? And actually one specific instance that happened over Black Friday, Cyber Monday this was the first year that we decided that the entire team would not get the day of Black Friday off. And we felt like over a couple of years, we had the entire team. You could take Black Friday, or we gave the entire team Black Friday off. But if you're within the PPC side where spend is just constantly flowing through for that day, and it's very apparent that you need to be on top of your game during that day, just make sure that you're monitoring your accounts and just be in there to make sure that, again, everything is good to go.
Right.
So this year was the first time we decided, let's just have the entire team be available in case anything goes wrong. Let's absolutely crush it. Let's do everything we can to be there for our clients on one of the most important days of their entire year.
That's a very unique and also, sort of over the top approach. And I like it. I think that's great. I'm sure as clients going into Black Friday, they feel comfortable saying, okay, great. Somebody's watching my campaigns. They know if something gets shut down, they know if something needs to be adjusted, or it's performing really well. And we've given the green light to increase the budget, whatever that might look like.
Exactly. Yeah. And we ended up giving the rest of the team multiple additional PTO days throughout the rest of the year in compensation for that, because we know that it's asking a lot. It's the day after Thanksgiving. People want to spend it with family. But one of the cool things is our entire PPC team, the entire day of Black Friday, was on a Zoom call together, just pacing accounts together, talking about what was going well, helping each other out if something did go wrong. It was a really, really cool thing to see internally within the team. And there was one specific instance where we were managing the Google Ads side, and there was another agency that was managing the social side of a SOC company that we oversee. And we were noticing that we were crushing it on the Google Ads side of things, and social was doing nothing, or nothing was being done, even though they were doing really well and they weren't looking to scale their business. So we reached out to them, said, hey, what's going on social? And they're like, we don't know. We haven't heard from them. And we just ended up managing the other account's social for them, and ended up scaling the crap out of their business throughout the entire day of Black Friday for them, and ended up, I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head the amount of revenue that we were able to incrementally drive because of that. But it was a substantial flip in terms of what they would have had if we didn't step in and say something about that. But it was one of those very cool moments of we decided we were going to give it the 110% while everybody else took that day off, and was able to drive a substantial amount of incremental value for our client because of that.
Yeah, I'm sure talk about a relationship builder, right? I'm sure they're super connected, and maybe we'll give you more business, whether it's that or other things, other channels that you and your team, I'm sure, are working on now. So that's exciting. And, I've talked to a few folks lately, and there's mixed reviews on, do you go above and beyond to do things for your clients for free? Like, do you go above the scope of work? I hear people who say, absolutely not. There is never an instance when I'm ever going to go over the SOW. I'm holding them to a fine line. And when it hits that, they want more stuff. Boom, we're charging them. I've taken a little bit more of a relaxed approach. If there is a situation like that where a client needs a graphic and a client needs a piece of copy, or something is broken that a different team is working on, I'm more than happy to help them within reason. If it's a reasonable request, we're going to just pop it up for them. And at the end of the day, that's why we also have a long LTV for our clients. And, I think it's a huge attribute to this, that it goes back to the idea of spending to retain. It's a sort of a hard concept for some people to think about, but it's better, and like we just talked about, more cost effective to keep that client for an additional 3 or 6 months or a year or however long, then go out and find a new one. It's going to cost you more. Same with hiring. And that's why you build processes and you hire well, and you look into those specific things to make sure that we're actually generating and hiring people, because that's costly. It costs a lot of money to train people. It costs a lot of money to have to get rid of someone and replace them. So something there. Okay. So lots of cool nuggets of wisdom, lots of cool stuff here. We've been talking for about 40 minutes. We got a little bit left. I want to talk to you more about sort of the personal journey that you've had along this way, because we didn't really get into it too much.
Yeah.
Going from the position that you had to CEO, how did that happen? Like, I mean, it's a very unique situation. It's when you start your own business, sure, you can be the CEO, do whatever you want. When you are employed at another company and you work your way up to a CEO level, I mean, I don't mean to like over talk about it or make it a big deal, but it is a cool thing and it's a really huge accomplishment. I would just love to hear, like, what were the struggles that you had or successes that you had, or like, how'd you get here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yeah, because I think
that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, funny enough, I know we kind of we went into a different direction once I went through which is perfectly fine. So yeah, the last thing I left off on was 3 days, got hired, like resume, interview, hired, and then started in September of 2020. And within the first couple of weeks, because it was COVID, what we do at Digital Position is annually we will have a summit where all of the teammates will fly into one physical location. We'll spend all of the time together, talk about yearly goals, whatever it is, and then go out and do a bunch of fun stuff. Because it was COVID.
Is everyone remote, or is it
everyone is remote?
Everyone's
remote. So we have 32 people spread across 25 different states currently. So we are all over the place.
Okay, cool.
But so for the COVID summit, it was all online, and all we did was play video games, which is very near and dear to my heart. I played video games my entire life, and I was just like, wow, this place is sick. I love this. Yeah. And got to know the owners very well, got to know a bunch of the teammates really well, and it just felt like a complete 180 from my previous job, where I felt like I could go out and have a drink with every single person on the team. I genuinely enjoyed spending time with them. They're all very smart, motivated, dedicated people. And it was just a very different feeling within the company from day one. And within the first couple of weeks, having that entire summit of just, we're playing games together, we're all having a great time. It was genuinely an enjoyable experience. And I was like, wow, this is pretty incredible. And that beforehand, I was pouring my heart and soul into the company. I really pride myself in just generally being somebody who is just, I will figure it out, whatever the heck it is, and I will just bust my ass for you. And it really sucked kind of getting burned in the previous agency. So I kind of had my guard up for a little while, but very, very quickly released from that within the first couple of months at DP. And just understanding and getting to know the owners over the first couple of years just established a lot of trust, and in something where we all have very similar morals and values. We all connected very well from an athletic standpoint. The previous CEO, professional volleyball player, the other co-owner who's on the team was a D3 swimmer, also incredibly talented volleyball player, but both like very athletic people, which I very much look to associate with, and also gamers on top of it too. So just a lot we were able to connect with. And on top of that, just everything they were able to cultivate within the culture of this company just spoke to me on every single level imaginable. So something where from day one, or you can say like a couple of months in, I was fully bought into this entire vision of this company, the entire culture. And it just instilled so much confidence in me to just do whatever the heck I wanted to do to continue to make this company succeed. And it was something that just was more or less kind of bred into me from that experience of, okay, SEO account lead, I'm going to do whatever the heck I can to succeed here. And at one point I did hit a burnout period of SEO where I was like, I've been doing this month to month for so long. I would like to try something else. And immediately at the snap of a finger, they were like, let's try and get you into PPC. So I got top PPC. Felt like I picked that up relatively quickly after so many years of doing SEO and listening to those conversations, and then was able to immediately go into an SEO and PPC hybrid role at that point. So I was able to understand how the business ran from both an SEO perspective and the PPC perspective, and be able to try and merge the best of both worlds and how those two departments would ultimately function together, whenever we would have clients that would have both. From there, they asked me to start building processes for that. So how would I end up looking to function the two departments together? How can we look to do employee onboarding better, employee offboarding better? How do we do client onboarding better, client offboarding better? So on and so forth, to where I was building all of these operational processes because I had the understanding of the two sides of the business as we were continuing to grow it over time. And I was not essentially building it from the ground up because there was an incredible foundation to begin with, but I was rebuilding a lot of things and getting a lot of very valuable knowledge of understanding how to structure a process, how to understand how a business functions from the ground up, and building that myself at the same time with the help of, everybody else within this team who has been just incredible from day one in terms of supporting me with that, helping me with whatever I need to, and just being part of the process in general. So all that to say, after going through all of that operational building, I went into operations supervisor, operations manager, director of operations, and just kind of climbed through a very quick succession period of all of these different titles, just from doing all of these different pieces of documentation, how to bring the team together, et cetera, that at some point during that, the CEO at the time invited me to play pickleball and beat the living crap out of me. Might I mind you, because he's an incredibly talented pickleball player. And afterwards, he was just like, he was personally going through some hardships with his family and felt like he really needed to step back from the company. And at that moment, after beating the living piss out of me in pickleball, he's just like, I would like to ask if you wanted to be the CEO of the company. I was like, holy shit. It was not anything I ever expected. I just felt like I was doing something to try and better the company as a whole. Was not anything I was ever promised in any way, shape, or form. And it was a very surreal feeling for sure.
How cool.
And yeah, ultimately a lot of it stemmed from the fact that he had been building this entire company for 9 years. He had been doing founder work for that entire time. He had been involved in every aspect of the business for so long, and you can only sustain that lifestyle for so long. And as his kids started to get older, he started to recognize that they're starting to see dad work all the time, and it was starting to fracture that relationship a little bit. There was just a lot of things that were going on at home, and he had that realization and felt like he really needed to pass the business off. And at this point,
good on him, because it's too often founders will stay way past the time that it's necessary. If you've built a business and successful business, you're building a team that's supposed to take over for you, right? Like, you can be involved as much as you want, but maybe you're not the best CEO in the world. Like, maybe there's a better one out there. And I think the fact that he could realize that he was no longer the best fit anymore for whatever reasons, I think is just massive. And it's a huge testament to his ability to run a business and start a business. And not only that, but to be able to sort of identify someone who is maybe not the obvious choice initially, but who goes, wow, this person is quickly learning and understanding the business, is going above and beyond, is doing the things that I need them to do. And I think that's what we're all looking for in our employees, ideally, but it's very rare. It's very, very rare. And getting that, I'm sure, was a very exciting time for him too, because hell, I mean, I'd love to spend more time with my kid and do other things too, right? So good for him. Man, I love that story.
Yeah. And I would certainly be remiss if I didn't at least shout out Steve, who is the co-founder, who is also throughout this entire process with Roger, the previous CEO, in terms of that entire climb, is especially me moving into this position and Steve having been there essentially from the beginning, who is the CMO of the company. The fact of having that person with that experience still at my side coming into this position, and to be fair, Roger has been an advisor for me since the transition, but it's just such an incredible thing to have people with that amount of experience to be surrounded by, to be able to continue to learn from over time with that just invaluable amount of experience, and being able to just take that, run with it, make it my own, and continue to build this business into something even more successful and greater than what hopefully they had initially envisioned. So at least
that's awesome.
Within all of that, I feel like I always have to give Steve a shout out, because he's been just immaculate throughout this entire process too.
I love that. Giving credit where credit is due. Absolutely. So I think this story is important because people who are looking at where they're currently at, a lot of people aren't happy in their jobs. They're not happy where they're at currently, and they don't see a way out. And whether you are an employee for a marketing agency or a business and you want to be in a different position, it's amazing what can happen when you just make an ask. You just make a request. You talk to your management. You build a relationship with them that is not just about work. That is, like you said, it's pretty hard to fire your friends. And if you can build that relationship with those who are in authority over you in the management, you have the ability to say, hey, I think I've done pretty well over here, but I really want to explore these other areas. And they might say, you know what, that's not a good fit. And then you go, cool, I'm out of here. I'm going to go learn from a company who's going to teach me, like digital DP. What is it called? Digital positions.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just
You're good.
lost my mind. And I think that you can ask, right? So go do that. And the worst thing that happens again is they say no, and you go, okay, well, this is either is or is not a good fit for me, and I can go somewhere else. If you have that right manager and that right person above you, they are going to look at it as an investment in you. This is a retention effort for this person who is really skilled at what they do, and they're getting a little bored. And when you're bored at something, you're not doing it well. I mean, whether you're the best, most well-intentioned person in the world or not, if you're bored and you're not excited about what you're actively doing day to day, you're likely not putting in full effort. You're not fully thinking about the opportunities and the ideas. And when you're in marketing specifically, and I'm sure others as well, that's where we need to be the most creative. It's where we need to be the most thinking about the crazy ideas that are out there and what we can do with marketing campaigns to be unique and different and better. And if not, you can start your own thing. You can do other stuff. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. Well, yeah. Grant, this has been super fun, man. I want to leave a few minutes. If you have anything you want to share about your business opportunities, can people come like get an audit, or can they come like take a look at your business? Like how does that work?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you go to digitalposition.com, you will be probably bombarded in terms of fill out a proposal or something like that. We will absolutely give you an audit. They're pretty much one of our slogans is like fill out a proposal form or fill out a form to get in contact with us. Like the worst thing that will happen is you get some free advice. Right. And we're more than happy to tell you everything that we possibly can to help make your business better. Genuinely, all we care about is just trying to build businesses that we think have potential and that we personally would care about to make them better so that it spreads out better into the world as well.
Sure.
And however we can possibly do that to help, we're more than willing to have that conversation and get that started. And if it happens to not work out, we will be fully bluntly honest about that as well. And we want to make sure that you get the best service that you possibly can, wherever that may be.
Sure. If it's a good fit for you and your agency to have that client, great. And if not, you also are looking at it and evaluating them to determine if it's a good fit, because you want to be effective and make them money. And at the end of the day, it says on your website, we don't just drive clicks, we drive profit. And I think when you're talking about that, you're talking about qualified clicks at this point who are looking at it and going and converting and have high conversion rates and things. So I think you've proven it through this conversation that there is a lot of opportunity at your business, and I think a lot of honesty and open discussion here. So if you're looking for search, SEO, probably some other services, go out to Digital Positions LLC, take a look, fill out the form, have a conversation with Grant and his team, and give it a try. What do you got to lose? Yeah. Grant, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Preston. Appreciate it. It's been great.